right, there's connecting. There's about a 20-second lag, but I mean it's recording right now. Um, but I don't know if anybody will show up. There's about a 20-second lag between what we talk about and when it shows up on their viewer. But I
Gotcha.
but I can. There's a chat room. Um, oh, let's see. I gotta. So if anybody does pop in and ask questions,
Okay.
we'll be able to. Well, I wish I understood exactly how this worked. I can get into my channel and I can see like my update and stuff, but I cannot. Sometimes I have a hard time getting to the actual video,
Okay. Um.
and you know it'll show up out of nowhere, but I got to play with it. So I'm still getting used to this.
Okay.
Let me. If anybody's there, we're here. We're looking. We're trying to get live. I don't know if you can see us or not, or hear us, or I know you can't see us because we don't have cameras. I don't want to.
We're gonna keep it that way.
Yeah, I don't want to hurt anybody's computer with my ugly mug. Well, search. There I am. Finally, it came up. All right. I got to sit through the advertisement here.
Okay.
It runs about a 15-second ad every time you come on. But anyway, we can go ahead and get started because it'll catch up to them. Sorry to everybody from the WWCF land. We're here with WWCF Radio. Say that 10 times fast, especially early in the morning. I've got Sean Murphy here with me. Sean, welcome.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
Well, it's morning, but that's okay. It's afternoon where you are at.
Yep.
We have just finished week 3. Let's pop up the media poll here real quick. And so we just finished week 3. So this program will be basically focusing on a first quarter wrap up, so to speak. And week 3 is kind of an odd week because you can see most teams are open that week. So maybe we need to consider waiting till week 4 next year, but that's okay. You can see Harry's off to a really good start, 2-0. Beat number 12 South Florida, and he looks right back in the mix to possibly get back to another national championship game. Ole Miss, one of those teams that always seem to be in the mix. Anything jumping out at you in the top 25 there, Sean?
And to be quite honest with you, not a whole heck of a lot. I mean, it's pretty much the usual suspects we got going today. So, yeah, I don't really see anything that jumps out at me. I think this is what we expected from the beginning of the season.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and jump right into each individual conference, and we will just head over to the standings page. We'll start off up at the ACC. Maryland, of course, 2-0. I think they've won like 8 million ACC titles in a row. That might be off 1 or 2. I don't know, but they pretty much dominate that conference. Virginia Tech seems to be the perennial power down in the Coastal Division. Anything jumping out at you there? Now, if you correct me, you're the North Carolina coach, right?
That's correct, and much to our usual form, we're off to an 0-3 start. Yeah, it's kind of funny. My favorite team, my favorite college team in real life, and I coach them here, and I can never seem to do anything right with them. So they're by far always my worst team, but I'm surprised they're still in the ACC with the 41 prestige. What really jumps out to me though is actually Clemson off to an 0-3 start. They didn't have that tough of a beginning schedule. I think they had one ranked team, but they lost to a few lower ranked teams, if I'm not mistaken. After I took a quick look at them, so maybe, yeah, let's take a look. So Cincinnati was a tough one. Boise State and Troy, I think they should have won though.
Yeah,
So that kind of surprised me.
Boise State's not a bad team down in the Big 12. They're they I forget it. I was thinking about them the other day. I forget the name of the coach that they had there, but they were pretty good for a little while. So they're not one of the powers, I don't think. But and Troy, well, I get my leagues mixed up sometimes because we were at Darren, in addition to running the WWCF, also runs the GDCFL, our sister league, and the coach at Troy in that league actually, based on coach prestige, actually jumped all the way up to the number 3 coach in the country as far as coaches prestige. So they've been really, really good and done a lot. But yeah, I don't think I would have expected 0-3 there. Looks like they probably have a good slate of games coming up here in the future that they really need to try to get back to 500 before they run into the Hokies in Week 7. And then, of course, Maryland in Week 10 is guaranteed to probably cause the consumption of a few bottles of Rolaids or whatever your antacid of choice is.
Or liquor, straight liquor.
Straight liquor? There you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, maybe that's why North Carolina's 0-3. No. No, but you got to remember, the Tar Heels, that's a basketball school, man. They don't know how to play football.
Oh, I know.
All right. Well, let's see. Just kind of taking a look at a couple of numbers. Of course, look at Virginia Tech, 125 points for. The next closest team is Miami at 75. So that's jumping out at me. That's pretty high-powered offense. Now, they do have 3 games under their belt. Most of the rest of the teams have 2. So let's see. That's about 40. That's just over 40 points a game. That's 10 points more than Maryland's averaging so far. Now, granted, Maryland. Darren never shies away from competition with Maryland. I don't know who he played last week, but it was he started off the season with Cal, so that's certainly. Oh, you know what? He played Ohio State this past week. I do remember that because they went to overtime in the sim, and he did he win that game? I don't remember. No, yeah, he did. He won it in overtime, which was really surprising. Well, no, not surprising, but that was a doozy. But I mean, who starts off their season with Cal and Ohio State? This guy, and he's still undefeated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, that's enough of Darren. He can kiss my ass. All right, let's go on to the Big East. Rutgers. Naturally, they landed 2 of the top 5 quarterbacks in the country this year. And I think when I was looking at his depth chart, he's not starting either one of them. So everybody that wants a transfer quarterback, go ahead and line up for Rutgers guys that are going to transfer after this season. But let's see, 2-0 there, 74 points for. Really stout defense, giving up under 10 points a game. And I think the one
TCU's got almost identical numbers there.
Yeah, right at. So nothing to shake a stick at there. Let's see. There's Troy. We talked about them. So they're 2-1, but they're split about 50-50. But I think most of those points probably they're the ones that beat Clemson. So, all right, well. Cincinnati, I think that's always the team that we look at here. So they've lost a game this year. Any idea who they played?
I have not looked at theirs, no.
We could pop that
I know that Cincinnati's coach always does a pretty darn good job, though. So,
wow, okay. So a loss to Washington, that's actually kind of surprising. Win against Clemson, blew out Arizona. Now, he's got a tough schedule coming up. West Virginia, South Florida. But then really...
Well, actually, I just took a look at the coaches. I didn't realize that. I know that, what was the forum name? I think it was Hutter. Used to be Cincinnati for a long time, but it just got taken over by somebody else new the past about 2 years, last season.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think Huter's with us anymore. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, he built Cincinnati up into a pretty good power. So
yeah.
If you hear me chewing, it's because I'm in the middle of breakfast. Sue me. I'll give you a refund if you want it. Let's see. Anything jumping out number-wise here? Well, 30 points for Syracuse and 88 given up. 44 points a game allowed. You're not going to win many games that way.
Yeah, I think it's jumping out at me. I think I'm going to have to schedule them with North Carolina next year.
Oh, there you go. And then Cincinnati we talked about. 99 points for, 76 against. TCU looks like they're rocking a pretty solid defense, at least in the early going, along with Rutgers. I guess we'll see how those stand up as we continue on the course of the season. Over in the Big Ten, what do you see there, John?
So I do apologize. I normally would have prepped a little bit before this. I only got a few seconds to look at it because my 7-year-old downloaded something onto my computer, which I had to uninstall.
Oh, well.
And it made my Skype go haywire. But yeah. Nothing much jumping out at me. I mean, you expect Iowa to be at the top. They are at the top. Nebraska's had a good start, although their defense is giving up more points than I think they'd like. Consider that spread, but they're still 2-0. Aside from that, Michigan, I'm surprised that you split games, but you had a tough beginning schedule, did you not?
No, I lost to Marshall. I fired every coach on my staff. I abused in fact, I used the Texas Tech electrical closet, and I locked every single player in there. And then I came home and I kicked my dog after that one. I was not happy.
I guess the big surprise, I'll have to look at their schedule, but Northwestern up towards the top, and they're the lowest prestige team in the Big Ten.
Yeah, we can take a look at them real quick. Let me find them here. I would say that, I just find it odd that Michigan and Ohio State are not at the top, but, my loss to Marshall was,
not like the loss to Maryland, yeah.
Yeah, it was unexcusable, but yeah, loss to Maryland, you can kind of get away with that. Let's see, Northwestern. Actually, yeah, I mean, they lost. You'd expect them to lose to Oregon.
Right.
Troy, we just saw a minute ago was 2-1, so that's their one loss. So that's probably a pretty nice win for the Wildcats. And their quarterback's playing pretty well. Dominguez, 618 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks, and they've got. Looks like they've got a guy in their secondary, 2 picks already on the season. Hell, I go seasons where I don't have a team that intercepts 2 balls. So, Of course, that's because I end up playing teams like Cal and Ohio State and Maryland. And
right.
So, all right, let's see. Let's head back into the standings here. This I think it's kind of hard to see trends too early in the season, especially with the out-of-conference schedule, but we should be getting into conference games next week. Of course, I expect to see Ohio State just, rocket up to the top of these once we start looking at conference records rather than out-of-conference. And you'll see a few of these other teams start to drop off. Wisconsin, 3-0. They look like they're playing pretty well. They've already got 97 points scored. Iowa with 116 points. That's pretty solid, even for 3 games. For between 30 and 40 points a game. So I mean that's pretty solid production. Let's take a look. Moving into the Big 12. North Texas off to a good start. I actually talked for a few minutes to Danny day before yesterday, I think, and he's studying for his master's degree. He's got that going on. His fiance just had a baby not too long ago, about a month ago. So he's got a lot of things happening, and he said he has not even done an export for the season yet. so he's 2-0. I can kind of tell he hasn't exported because he's only scored 40 points. 20 points a game is a little low for him, especially in out-of-conference games. But he needs to get an export in, or that's going to quickly go in the opposite direction when he starts hitting some Big 12 teams here. Oklahoma, I know James had said online he was still struggling with them, trying to figure some things out, but looks like he's got it going in the right direction in the early going. And Oklahoma at the top of the leaderboard certainly is what we're used to seeing. Baylor at 0-2. That
That's the big shocker. Yeah, but they had two tough games. I mean, they played. Let me take a look.
now
They
did you
had.
is Darren still there? Or did he leave?
Yep, he is. Yep. They Nebraska and Stanford to open up the season, so that's not the easiest of schedules to begin with.
Yeah, but you would expect Darren to figure out how to split those games. Now you're in Colorado. How's your team looking this year?
Well, aside from our loss to Air Force, thanks, John.
Hey, appreciate it. No problem.
Not too bad. I mean, we're just kind of struggling with. We had a really good recruit class this year. I think we were ranked 30th overall. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get them back up. The first year I was there, we went to the Big 12 championship game and lost, of course. But this year we're kind of struggling. We lost some seniors, and I think we're pretty much yellow across the board with a few greens. So it's going to be tough in the Big 12 for us.
Well, when we can. I think at your prestige level, when you can get to that point where you have all yellows across your depth chart, and then if you can start building some yellow players in your second tier, that's kind of that line of demarcation that you've kind of got things rolling. And you have to what I always tell guys that are struggling with lower prestige teams is that, look, you're not going to compete for these conference championships. What you've got to worry about is smart out of conference scheduling, trying to get to 6 wins on the season, and winning a bowl game. And that's gonna, and if you do that, you're gonna see your prestige is going to improve. Now, it may not be 10 points a season, it may not even be 4 or 5 points a season, but you will slowly see improvement. And you have to keep in mind, anybody that did not know this, every 10 points of prestige puts you into a different recruiting bracket. So if you're at 49, your goal needs to be to get to 50, because that puts you up into the next tier of players. Once you get to 50, then you want to get to 60. And because once you, like Danny said this year, he jumped over, I think he's over 70 now for the first time, and he was amazed at the quality of players that he was seeing in his interest list for recruiting this year. So, keep that in mind, and worry about what you can control. And it's not going to be going 8-0 in the Big 12 or whatever conference you're in. It's going to be, can I get to 6 wins, even if that's just 3 or 4 wins in my conference. That's what you've got to shoot for, and you've got to have those realistic expectations. So.
Well, we got a real big win over Washington this past in week 2. We had week 3 and week 4 open. Then we go to Boise, which I think we can win. But then we have Texas Tech. So Texas Tech, Baylor, and then we hit Kansas, then North Texas, Kansas State. Yeah, it's just not an easy schedule at all.
Wait, I don't get to play you this year?
No, you do not.
Damn. Oh man, I was counting on that.
I get a reprieve.
I was counting on that.
You already beat me once, all right?
Yeah, but that was with Air Force. That doesn't count. I actually I open up the conference slate with Texas Tech next week, so that's in fact that's what I was doing right before the show, was doing my export and trying to figure out what I was going to do with those guys, because he's owned me for a while. I got Oklahoma out of the conference, and it didn't fix my problem. I still can't win the South anymore. So,
I mean, really, the murderer's row here is going to be Texas Tech, Texas, and Oklahoma. I mean, you're talking about 3 very stacked teams that are going to run this conference.
I am curious to see what Homer does down at A&M, because they've kind of been an also-ran team, but he, if I remember correctly, he actually won the South last year, did he not?
I believe he did, yes.
I think he had an upset over Texas Tech, and he's really had them coming up, which, is kind of surprising since it's Homer. But, Homer and I have a very good-natured rivalry, and he picks at me a lot. So I'm going to take advantage of owning the airwaves here to get back at him a little bit. But, no, they've actually come a long way, and they're doing pretty well. So, hopefully we can kind of keep him pushed down a little bit to where he's not going to become a fourth head on this 3-headed monster that we've got. Of course, Danny's coming up, so it never gets easier; it only gets harder. All right, well, we've spent enough time on this conference because both of us are in it. Let's move
Yep.
on to the Conference USA. Um, this is a conference that I think we're talking about maybe seeing some changes next year. I know a vote was put out for some conference movement, and I know Conference USA is one of those conferences that are that we feed into from the lower tiers. So you were mentioning Air Force. I know there's some discussion for Air Force moving up, and then you can see already in here we've got teams like Illinois that has gotten demoted, and Iowa State from larger conferences into this conference. And actually, when I was doing one of the conference preview last time, the one that was a 9 episode show, which I'm sure you're glad you skipped that one.
Yeah, yeah, I was.
Well, I wish you would have shown up because then I wouldn't have had a 9 episode show. But
It
once
may have been 12.
once I got started on that path, I went, wow, this is going to take forever, but I'm already this far into it. I just assume finish. So, but it was kind of strange to see that they had fallen so far in the Big 12 that they're really not even a contender in the Conference USA right now. They
Yep.
are 2-1, but again, that's out of conference, and I think we're going to see them probably struggle. San Diego State, I think, is one of those teams that might be up for a push out of Conference USA up into a larger conference. And Kent State had been talked about, probably at least 6 or 7 seasons back, and they're still here. So we may see a couple of teams end up moving up at some point. Uh, just trying to look at some numbers here. Of course, Bowling Green and San Diego State, both with over 110 points or more. Granted, they do have 3 games under their belts, but that's still, I always kind of, I try to shoot for about 30 to 35 points is kind of what I want to average offensively, because in that way you can outscore some teams if you do tend to give up points. But when you're scoring that many and you're only giving up 12 points a game,
Yeah.
that's a pretty good recipe. You could bottle that and make some money.
Well, I do think that Fresno State's is looking to have a pretty good year. They already have one top 25 win, and the coach there is Redbird, I think it is, on the forum.
Yep.
He's done pretty well so far. I'd like to see how they finish out their year in Conference USA. See if they make a run for it with San Diego State.
Well, Sean Rankin is Redbird. He's a good coach.
Yep.
Don't overlook him, and he's built up some programs, and then left the league for a while, and he's back now with a couple of teams, and he knows what he's doing. So that's a guy you don't want to get on the wrong side of.
Well, good because I got him at Colorado in week 14, so that's it makes me feel good.
Oh yeah, well, just start drinking now. All right, moving down to the MAC. This is the second of what we call our feeder conferences, where you have your lower prestige teams move up into, and your Power Five that get demoted kind of move into this area. You can see Duke down in here, Indiana. So, a couple of teams have moved, and you can see Indiana just still struggling. Now, a lot of that I think is I don't think they have a human owner, and probably one of those teams that a lot of the big shots, gang up on early in the season. Let's see, Indiana. Well, Miami, Troy, we've talked about, Texas Christian, and then who else is not in that conference? I don't know which one of those other ones is out of conference. Some of these conferences with the moves that we've had over the years, I just can't keep track of them all.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm surprised we don't see 3 or 4 top 20 programs in there. Just kind of trying to take advantage of that. But it is what it is. Western Kentucky off to a pretty good start. Defense might be a little susceptible depending on who they've played. Duke really struggling, as is Akron. A lot, you see a lot of zeros on the board here, which
Yeah.
for a mid-major in the early season when when the big boys are picking cupcakes, certainly not surprising. It'll be interesting to see maybe our next episode when we're 3 or 4 games into the conference slate how this is shook out. Mountain West. Well, this is one you and I are familiar with. How did you and
Hmm.
I end up in so many conferences together?
I think that's why I chose it on purpose, John.
Oh,
So
okay, okay. Well, I don't know if I should take that as a compliment or that you thought it would be easy wins for you. I don't know, but uh, let's see. Idaho. That's Myril. Of
yep.
course, I face off with him and with Texas Tech in the Big 12. Um, I tell you what, he puts on a show that he's really laid back and easy going. I don't think we have anybody that's as competitive as this guy.
No.
I mean, Idaho's not a high prestige team, not even in this conference, and yet they're pretty dominant. They're not quite a rival because I've been able to handle them with the Air Force, but he's getting there, and he does more with that team than a lot of people do.
Well, he's actually now tied prestige wise for the second highest prestige in the conference with Nevada.
Oh, really? Has it gone up that much?
No, actually, he went down. He got it up to a 43 about 5 seasons ago, but it's trended down to a 39. But 39 is still tied with Nevada as the second. I mean, Air Force is blowing everyone out of the water with a 51 prestige. But
Now it's funny how you have the prestige pulled up. What was Air Force about 7, 8 seasons ago when I took them over?
three, about a 36, 30, yeah, about a 36. 2018, 2019, 36, 38.
Yeah, so yeah, they were below 40, and they were not the top team in the conference when I took them over. So I've gotten lucky with them. We got a few breaks in the early seasons. I was able to beat Nevada in some conference championship games. I had the one year where we went undefeated until I ran the table in the conference, and I think I was 10-0 at one point, and we had broken the top 25, and I think then I got it handed to me 3 weeks in a row, and somebody like Maryland said, "Welcome to the big time," and like beat me by like 800 points. I am struggling with them this year. My defense is a little susceptible. I'm strangely very weak at quarterback well, not strangely. I've had a real bad run with quarterback recruiting in this league. And I've got, for each team, I've got what I consider below average quarterbacks for what I should have. And I just can't figure it out. It's probably been, well, I mean, Kylie Neal, when he was the #1 overall pick that I got at Michigan, was probably the last real dominant quarterback that I've gotten, and since then I've just been unable to get anybody. So
Yep.
I don't know what to do with that. But Idaho, and of course he's not giving up many points, so he's going to be there. Washington State, that looks so weird seeing them in the Mountain West.
Yeah, it does.
But anyway, how's your Wyoming team looking this year?
Well, if you notice, we've scored the most points out of the entire conference, but then again, we've also played 3 games. We have for this conference for Mountain West, we have what I feel for Wyoming, at least since I've been there, probably the best offense I've had, but we also have the worst defense. We have 3 really good running backs, and I know that you kind of brought it up in the preview. You know, why the heck am I running the option? Because it's broken. So I thought that was kind of funny because back when Bowl Bound first came out, I was actually helping Arlie test the option because I ran an option offense in high school and into coaching a little bit as well.
Really?
And yeah, and I really wanted to make it work. In fact, when I was coaching, I think at Eastern Michigan some time ago, that's what I strictly ran. It's not broken. It just doesn't dole out the stats like you would traditionally think a triple option would, because really you're going to get about 50% of the carries going to the fullback. But it's good in other areas, and the reason that I kind of chose it was because I have 3 really good running backs and a couple fairly good passing quarterbacks for that level of prestige. So I really wanted to run more of a short, almost like a West Coast passing offense, and with an option formation, it puts 2 running backs in passing patterns at all time, and they have the best hands on my team. So yeah.
Okay. It's funny because I'm actually doing, in addition to starting to do these streams. I have a YouTube channel and I do a lot of different stuff on there. And recently, I've gotten into the sports games that we play, and I'm actually doing a career series with Oklahoma, doing the same thing, trying to replicate the option wishbone attack. And yeah, same issue is trying to figure out how to dial in to get the quarterback runs and the fullback runs, uh, to where I think they
It's
should
realistic.
be. Yeah, and I'm in my second season with it. I've gotten it working a little bit, but it's really taken a lot. I did put, if anybody plays that game, of course, we have another league, the SNCFL. That's convoluted, but they use that draft day sports college football, and what I put up a video if anybody is interested in running the option in that game with some of my findings, some of the information that I've gotten back from Brooks and OK Bandit, who are the coders on that game, and
Yep.
basically there is actually a box you have to go into the editing, and there's a box to actually tick to make the quarterback be a quote running quarterback. So it's not just recruiting a quarterback with running ability. It actually is a box, that a hidden box that
Hmm.
you have to check. So in a multiplayer league, you can't even do that. You have to have the commissioner do it. But your first thought is draft a dual threat quarterback or a quarterback with good speed or good running ability. No, you have to do that, but then you have to check this box too. So since I've done that, I've seen an increase, but the biggest thing is you can't use the default playbooks because, like in the option, it has the wishbone, it has some spread, it has some shotgun, so it has other formations, and a lot of those other formations don't lend themselves to the fullback dive and those kind of
Yep.
plays. But that's part of my other testing is I'm going into the customized playbook, and I'm putting in more of that, and I'm working with the weights right now is what I'm kind of tweaking to try to see where I can dial that in. Of course, now we're talking about a completely different game, but since you brought the option up, it's something I've
Right.
been playing a lot with, and you
And
know,
to be fair to the developers, I mean, really, in modern day college football, I think there's really only one team left that runs an actual triple option offense anymore, and that would be Navy. So really, you only have a very small sample size if you're actually trying to work out the statistical coding and logic for it, because no one really runs it anymore.
well,
It used to
Georgia
be.
Georgia Tech still runs it.
That's true. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
service academies still run it, and the reason the service academies ran that was because
They're smaller.
they're smaller. They never could get the same type of athletes, and they needed to be quicker and be able to exploit the edges and spread out the field. And you're able to do that with that triple option attack. And you know
Yeah.
what? I mean, I'm almost 50. I turn 50 next month, and uh, I remember watching. I mean, I certainly am more of a passing person schematically from my personal preference, but I certainly remember watching Jamel Holloway win the national title as a freshman for Oklahoma, and Lydell Carr running out of the backfield, and their quote was, "We're going out every week, and we're going to hang half 100 on somebody."
Hmm.
In rushing yardage, and 500 yards rushing and 50 points was their goal, and damned if they didn't go do that week after week.
Yep.
So I still think it's an interesting concept, if nothing else.
Well, one thing I'd like to really kind of take a look at, you mentioned the service academies run it very almost exclusively. Air Force, not so much. I mean, they do a little bit. Army is big into it, but they've gone to more of a passing attack in the past couple of years. But Navy has been the big one. However, I don't know if you saw this in the news after last season, then the service academies are now letting players go to the pros. There's no longer, if they get drafted, they're able to go immediately into the pros. So
Oh, really?
that could be a big recruiting bonus for the service academies.
Well, I think there's probably, I think you have to have that. There's a certain mindset that wants to go to the military academy because
Yeah.
it's always been service first,
Yep.
and it's nice that they're going to give players that option, but I still think it's going to still be just a particular player that's going
Yeah.
to want to go there. But it will be nice if you have a player that might qualify to go there, might have the desire, but says, hey, but if I'm good enough, now I have that option. That's going to be
Hmm.
pretty cool, and that could help them. That would be almost, you might start seeing, I guess, the equivalent to our game would be a 40 or a 50 prestige team landing a 4-star player.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen often, but man, when they come in, they can certainly make a big difference, and that would be
Yep.
interesting. I did not hear that, so that's interesting to know. All right, well, let's. Anything else you want to pop on here? We've kind of gotten way off
Yeah.
tangent.
Yeah. We have gone
It's
down
the
the rabbit
Mountain
hole.
West fault. We'll blame it on them. We aren't covering them anymore. All right, over in the Pac-12, the Conference of Champions, or at least the Conference of Uber Egos, uh, uh, beats in Oregon. The beat goes on 2-0,
Yep.
18 points allowed in 2 games. Um, you know, if you can give up 9 points a game, you're going to win an awful lot. I think they're number 3 in the country. We saw. San Jose State's one of those teams that got promoted up, and damned if they're not playing well. Uh,
Yep.
Cal, 1-1, you kind of would question that, but of course their loss was in the opening week to Maryland, and then USC still rolling. Um, Arizona, I don't know what to make of them because it was. Oh, I'm getting my leagues confused again. Never mind. Um, I hate when that happens, but oh well. That's the problem with having like 13 or 14 teams that I deal with. My brain cells get jumbled. I'm blaming it on age, I swear. Utah, that's one of the top teams over there. I don't even know if they have yeah, they have an owner. I don't know who it is. It used to be Danny's cousin, actually. He's the one that built them up and got them promoted up from the Mountain West years back. I don't know who's there now. Do you? Do you have
I
that pulled up?
don't. I can take a look. Hang on one second.
I'm just trying to,
Rick Sullivan
Okay.
is at Utah. Yep.
Vikes rule.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So he's maintained them really well and got them going. Um, Nothing really jumping off the board here at me. We're gonna cut
Except
this.
that,
Oh, go
except
ahead.
that one of the predominant powerhouses, the Pac-12, is coached by a FIFA-sanctioned referee out of Scotland.
Oh, really?
Though Graham, yeah, I believe he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he just got his FIFA license actually over in Scotland.
Oh,
Yeah.
that is awesome. Again, I'm pretty diverse. I actually was a soccer official for about 20 years in my younger years. I never got past the high school level, but certainly loved the game and played it all the way through high school myself. So that's cool. I'll be interested to hear to find that out from Beats. I did not know that, so that's actually very cool. I want to hear all the stories about getting chased off the field by lynch mobs with pitchforks and stuff, because we know that happens, right? We've seen video. I want to see Beats running off the field going, "Save me!" So that's something to look forward to, maybe. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, we'll run through these last two real quick. Florida, number 1 in the country, dominating as usual in the early going. I certainly expect Harry to be in the mix come the end of the season. Georgia's one of those teams that is really good, but always seems to stumble somewhere. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens again this year. And that's kind of weird because in that why Mark Richt got fired, because he always
Yep.
seemed to underachieve just a little bit. But you think they miss him now? I don't think they were as good as him with Rick last year. Uh, let's see. Tennessee, that's Homer's team. I got to pick on him because I beat the hell out of him 2 weeks ago with Michigan. We were pretty pissed off after that Marshall loss, and he was on the receiving end of that beatdown. Um, LSU, Ole Miss, Alabama, undefeated. You definitely kind of see a break here. I mean, the West, much like in real life, seems to be the dominant conference here,
Yep.
at least based on the early going. All right, I do want to just hit this because I want to go look at some stats real quick before we wrap it up, and I know you don't want to be on here all day. So over to the Sun Belt. My alma mater's 0-3. I don't run this team because I tried once and couldn't do anything with them. And it looks like the guy running them now is not having much more success than I did, which is too bad. You know, that hurts.
I mean, really, the thing that jumps out is that there's only one win for the entire conference right now.
Yeah. I don't think we have very many human owners. I think there might only be 2 human owners. So I think the Sun Belt's one. If we went through each schedule, we'd probably see a lot of human teams.
We actually got four.
Oh,
four
really?
now.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. But I bet we see a lot of human teams lining these guys up for target practice in the early going. So, all right, let's real quick. We want to jump over to some stats. Let's see.
Player leaders. Yep.
Okay, All right, so we're going to look at the whole league. All right, let's see if we look at the first guy. Look at this, a yellow quarterback, Virginia Tech, 1,146 yards. And
Who's number 2 there?
And an orange quarterback at Wyoming. What the hell? So don't tell me you can't find quarterbacks to play. And I guess my excuses just went out the window. Of course, that bothers me, 48.9%.
He's not that good, but
Yeah,
we throw it a hell of a lot. So
because if I had that guy at Texas or Michigan, which
Yeah.
actually I think my backup at Texas is about this guy, that would be about a 30% completion ratio. Not very good. In fact, there's my Michigan guy at number 4. We've ramped it up a little bit this year. And Garvey, man, this guy's supposed to be going for like his 12th straight Heisman, and he's in 6th place. What's the deal? Let's take touchdowns. Again, a lot of yellow and orange guys at the top of this list here in the early going. Western Kentucky, Bowling Green, Wisconsin, Colorado State, and there's my Texas guy. And he's blue, but don't let that fool you. That's just good. I don't know. He's to quote the owner from the movie Draft Day, he's weak in the knees. Let's see. Anything else you want to look at in there? Who leads the country in interceptions? Oh, hello. 12 picks? Are you kidding me? Wow. 12 picks in 99 attempts.
to 2 touchdowns, that's not a good ratio.
No, that guy needs to get benched. I don't care who's behind him. All right, let's see. Rushing leaders. 523 carries out of LSU. Oh, and yards. So he's halfway to 1,000 yards, and he's got 2, maybe 3 games under his belt. So we've got a couple of guys looking for a 2,000, maybe even a 3,000 yard season. I guess you don't have to pass the ball to do well. And touchdowns, a couple of guys with 5. So that's one thing, even when I have good running backs, it's putting the ball in the end zone on the ground that I struggle. I don't know why. I've had guys run for 1,600 yards and have 2 or 3 touchdowns on the season, and
Yeah.
I just can't figure out. That's certainly a weakness in my game, and I don't know what it is to get over that hump. Receptions, we've got hello.
Oh wow.
Guy out of Air Force with 36 catches this season. He's a running back too. 126 yards a game and 132 yards after catch. But see, no touchdowns. He can't get in the end zone. And he's green. He was a transfer player. Great name. I love that name for a running back. Maryland, of course, Culberson. He's right up there. Michigan Tech. Well, hey. Okay, we'll pass on that. I don't want anybody scouting this. Let's see. Pancakes. I love the pancake. Arizona State, 11. Wyoming. There you go. One of your
Yep.
guys. Couple. Well, one of my guys too, with double-digit pancakes already. Any stats that you really look at that you're particular about that you get your attention? Just that you always want to look at for your players.
Not really. I tend to go for the overall stats of the team. I think this, like you said, there's some anomalies that kind of leap out, especially like the touchdown. If you have massive yardage, a lot of times the game will actually sub out that player because what ends up happening is they'll break off a long run and then their backup will come in and score the touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, we see that a lot in real life, though. I mean, if
Mhm.
guy breaks a 60-yard run and he gets dragged out at the 3, normally he's on the sideline getting
Yep.
oxygen, and then his back comes in, or they have a goal line back. But I don't know if I know there's in the depth chart you actually have a goal line back. I guess that's what it pulls from, but for me, typically it's always the same guys. So yeah, it's just weird that you got one guy that's got 800 carries for the season with 2 touchdowns, and the other guy's got 16 carries for 12 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Well,
One of the things that does jump out at me when I look at this kind of stuff when I'm prepping for a game is I kind of look at where their sack distribution is coming from.
Yeah.
Team I'm playing that because that can give you a lot of information of what kind of defense they're running if they're blitzing from the secondary, if they're really sending a lot of linebackers, or if they're just really using their front four.
oh, okay, okay. Well, speaking of sacks, the nation's leader is Williams. I wonder if that's Mario Williams, the former #1 draft pick by the Texans. Because I think the last time he was that good was in college.
Yeah.
6 sacks. Well, since you talked about the team leaders, let's look at that. So let's take a look at passing offenses. Ole Miss, 83.6% completion ratio. That's
They're only throwing the ball 55 times though. So.
yeah, but well, in the old days, and I know you and I've talked a little bit. We both go back a little bit. The old saying, from my favorite coach of all time, Bo Schembechler, was, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and if you throw the
Hmm.
ball, 3 things can happen, and 2 of them are bad. Um, if you're completing 83.6%. I think Bo's philosophy's out the window. If you throw the ball, 3 things can happen, and only
Yep.
one of them's bad. Because the ball hitting the ground ain't one of the problems.
No.
Now, on the other end of that spectrum, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That would be
Well, I think
that would be
that would be
Bo's
the quarterback
philosophy
that we
there.
looked at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's a few teams that are. Well, there's Clemson, 39.8. I know you singled them out earlier.
Yep.
So that could be part of their problem. Overall yardage, look at that. Wyoming, 1,300 yards. Jeez.
Taking a page out of Danny's playbook
I guess.
and Darren's.
There you go. Well, you have more yards, but yards per game, I like that.
Yep.
I like that too. And let's see, passing to Ball State, 10 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's solid. So, and yeah, I see you with 9 and 6. I know you'd probably like to have that more 9 and 4. Probably you'd be really happy.
Yeah, but when you have a 2-3 rated quarterback, it's
Well, if he played for Danny, he'd throw for 800 yards a game. He's done that before. Yeah, all right. Well, hey, anything else you want to look at here before we call it an episode?
no, I'm good.
All right. Well, Sean, thanks for dropping in with us today. I don't think we ended up having anybody get online with us live, but that's okay. I'll end up posting this on Facebook, not Facebook, on my YouTube channel, so the guys can look at it later
Awesome.
from the website. But thanks for showing up for this one, and we'll touch base down the road and do something around either a mid-season touch base like we did today, or we might wait till a little bit later in the season and do kind of a postseason preview at what we see happening and who we see making it into the playoffs and the bowl games. So, guys, thanks for checking WWCF Radio out. Sean, thanks for joining up with me once again. And
Thanks,
we'll
John.
see you guys next time. Take care.
All right.